Who still thinks the International Space Station is real? Well, let's have a look. Now, just like I did last week, I'm going to use this citation from the United States Air Force to highlight the absurdity of the International Space Station.
If by instance they were flying at the altitudes that they fly at and they were to open their helmet up to like scratch their nose, if at that instant they were to lose cabin pressure, the blood in their body would instantaneously boil and be instantaneous death. So we have our pilots, we tell them once they close down, do not open until they land.
Sensible advice. The U-2 pilot flies approximately 70,000 feet, which I think is about 13 miles off the top of my head. And its top speed is 450 miles an hour, okay? And as our friend has just stated here, the reason the U-2 pilots wear their spacesuits is if they were to lose cabin pressure at high altitude and they didn't have their spacesuit on, their blood would boil instantly, okay? And this is where it gets incredibly silly. Now I'm going to let the NASA legend Don Pettit highlight the absurdity of the space station for all to see, fresh off the back of the citation from the United States Air Force. Take it away, Don.
So you have a whole series of O-rings in here and a shaft that you rotate.
So, I mean, like on the space station, how many of these would you have?
7, because we have 7 windows.
What happens if you get a leak on that?
Then you have a leak.
Look at his face. Look at his face. Bearing in mind, the U-2 pilot is several hundred miles supposedly below these people on the space station. And if he had a leak, his blood would boil, which is why he has strict procedures. Of course, one of them is wearing the suit. But strangely enough, if you have a leak on the International Space Station, well, you have a leak. And it would seem this legend from NASA doesn't have a Scooby-Doo clue what to do to fix it. Despite the fact, from a citation of the United States Air Force, from what they've told us, these people would die instantly. You'd have procedures that would save your life under these circumstances drilled into you, where it would be second nature. So you'd act like that should you have issues. But if you have a leak, you have a leak.
You just have a leak.
And what you would do
You
is
lose air.
Yeah, you would probably seal the whole cupola off.
Probably he doesn't have a clue what the procedures are. How obvious do these people need to make it for you? The United States Air Force is rubbish to space anyway with their citation from the spy plane. The space shuttle got annihilated last week from the citation from the United States Air Force. And now the space station itself has just been annihilated with the help of Don Pettit, who's highlighted how ridiculous this space story really is.
And then there's probably a plan, I don't know off the top of my head, but there's probably a plan for...
The fact you don't know the plan off the top of your head really exposes you for the pantomime star that you really are. You're not a spaceman in any shape or form. You're a pantomime character that acts up for naive individuals so you can tickle their delusional hotspot and make them feel like reality is exactly the opposite to what can be tested and verified by all. It's crazy.
Placing the mechanism might require a spacewalk.
So my question is, how can you operate a lid on the outside of the space station by manipulating something mechanical on the inside of the space station without losing air pressure?
It's called real good engineering.
Shocking, Don. Look at his face. Even though he's a liar, a fraudster, a pantomime star, I can't help but like him. He is the gift that keeps giving, and so is the United States Air Force. Thank you very much, guys, for highlighting how ridiculous the space station is. And of course the space shuttle when we looked at it last week. You can't have these double standards. You just can't. We know one's real, the United States Air Force. It's been verified time and time again. But this silly pantomime known as the International Space Station can't be verified other than looking up and seeing something fly across the sky. That doesn't mean there's a space station orbiting a scientifically impossible ball in a vacuum. Of course it doesn't. It just means there's something flying about a high altitude. That's it. And our friend here has highlighted the mainstream story of the space station is absolutely ridiculous. And that's not my opinion. That's off the back of a citation from the United States Air Force. Dear, oh dear.